Cardona.
Cardona, yes.
Cardona. Great. Okay, Molly, I'm going to hang up.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, we're live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to LinkedIn Live with Steve White, where we come together once a month and we talk about leadership. We talk about living your why, being the best you can be. I got one of my road dogs here with me today. Everybody, go to my website, stevewhitespeaks.com, if you're interested in the definition of a road dog. But trust me, once you find out the definition of a road dog, you want one on your team. So I got my main man, Victor Cardona on. Victor, how you doing?
Fantastic, Steve. Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here with you.
Great. Thanks for joining. So Victor's going to help me today because we're talking about 2022 and getting ready for 2022. And my process is all about writing things down, reflecting on the previous year, getting ready for the new year. Studies show that when you write things down, the chances of you succeeding goes way up. We also know that reflection is very important because if you're not careful, history will repeat itself, and we want the good stuff to repeat, not the bad stuff. So reflecting is very, very critical. So Victor, help me talk about 2022 and preparing for a new year. So first of all, tell everybody a little bit about you. Tell everybody who you are, what do you do? You're part of the Comcast family, but let's just take a minute. Who are you and what do you do for Comcast?
Hey, Steve, thank you. So my name is Victor Cardona. I'm a father of 4 girls. So that in itself keeps me very busy. I'm one of the senior executives here on the East Coast with Comcast as part of our enterprise group, our business development group. And I've been here for about 12 years. And most of my day is either raising these fine young ladies or looking at enterprise services and business development with our enterprise customers. So that's what I do.
Great. Victor, you've been part of the Comcast family for almost 12 years. Thank you for your service and thank you for everything you do. But Victor, one of the reasons we have Victor on, he is one of our most successful executives at Comcast, certainly within the Comcast business family. We have something called President's Club. And it is an honor that you earn to join some of your other colleagues once a year in really great locations like Hawaii and South Carolina and these beautiful places. So Victor, tell everybody a little bit about your approach to being successful. You certainly had a lot of success with Comcast, and I would imagine a huge part of your success is planning. So share with our teammates how you go about planning for success.
Sure, yeah. And in addition to the great leadership we have here at Comcast, thank you very much for your leadership, Steve. 100% planning is everything. Failing the plan is planning to fail. Not only do I plan on a yearly basis, but I also have a cadence that I do daily, weekly, and monthly. And I've been doing this since 2014 when I was first exposed to just the power of planning. And I plan my whole day out down to the 30 minutes. Most of my meetings are done in 30 minutes, and that's external, internal, and everything that I try to do from a project basis, try to keep it within that 30-minute window. Obviously, there's room for flexibility, but for the most part, that's where I stay. But my day is meticulous. I'm on top of it. I know what I'm going to do weeks ahead of time, sometimes months. I just have to be like that. I have ADD. I'm all over the place. So if I don't do that, man, I'll be going crazy. But yeah, so my day's planned usually a week or two ahead of time.
And, you know, Victor, some people might say, well, people who plan out too much, it doesn't leave them flexibility, especially in a world that is changing so rapidly. I know for me, while I like to plan, I always take time in the morning to reassess what's happening in the world, what's happening in my business, and make decisions on whether I need to adjust. That's my approach. How do you plan, but at the same time, stay flexible and in the moment for what's happening in the real world?
No, that's a great question, Steve. And I think everybody has their own way of doing things. And I know what's worked for me is I'm very meticulous in my planning, but I'm also available. And that's something that I've worked on over the last, I'd say, 2 years, and something you talked about in the workbook with culture, your inner culture, and the story about the plane crash with the pilot. I thought hit home, because I want to be as available and open as I can to my team members, my family, my community. But yeah, just being available when somebody needs you. I always do my best to be available, whether that's, hey, call me at 3 o'clock, I'll give you 15 minutes, call me tonight. But I always find pockets of time to be available, to your point, for folks that either need a reach out, or, the world's crazy right now. So, you got to be as available and flexible as possible. But I always try to find time within a 24-hour window to be available as well.
Yeah. Well, Victor, I wanted you on, one, because you've been so successful at Comcast. And number two, you're one of my soul brothers because you love to plan and I love to be around people. But also in December, I published something called a leadership workbook and helping leaders prepare themselves individually as well as their teams for success going into the new year. And you did something that almost went viral. You grabbed that workbook, you took a picture of it and talked about, hey, my main man, Steve White, I want to give him a shout out. I'm using his workbook. What was it about the workbook? Because the workbook is available to all of our teammates that are listening today at stevewhitespeaks.com. You can go in, you can download it, and you can customize it any way you want to. But what was it about the leadership workbook that struck you as a potential tool to help you in your planning for 2022?
So, Steve, to your point, I think one of my mottos in life is to always be a student, right? I don't care. You could know everything, but there's something that somebody else knows that you don't know, right? So I try to be a student, learn from those that are places where I want to be. And when you published the Leading with Clarity workbook, I was all over it. I couldn't wait to download it, print it out, and start working on it as part of my yearly planning. And as I was going through it, to your point, if it's not scheduled, if it's not written, it's not happening. For me, that's just the way I operate everything. Everything's written out. I'm still old school with my planners. I like to write them out. I have them in my laptop. I have them in my calendar, my digital calendar, but I like to write things out so I can see from a bird's eye view what I have going on for the week. So I use this along with some other tools that I use. That week between Christmas and New Year's is usually my reflection week for the next year, for the next quarter. And I was actually getting some work done to my car. And I'm like, listen, I got some downtime. I brought my book bag with me. Let me work on the leadership workbook. And although I don't have any direct reports at Comcast, I do lead a lot in the community in my local clubs. Obviously, I'm a dad, so I don't think you have to have any direct reports to be a leader. But I really enjoyed a couple of the things. As I mentioned, writing things down is everything. You mentioned in the beginning of the call, as well as the culture piece. Like I mentioned earlier, really hit home around, hey, what do people view you as a leader? Like, what do they see or what do they think about you? So I did an exercise after this workbook, Steve, that I didn't tell you. I reached out to some of my best friends. I told to my kids, it's like, hey, am I approachable? Like, can you just be open with me and be real, be honest, and and that's one of the things that I did just from a leadership standpoint, is just trying to find out what people think about me, bad, good, or indifferent, and just trying to be as open, as available as possible. But that culture, that inner culture piece really hit home for me as part of the workbook. But the whole thing was awesome. I loved it. I finished the whole thing in about 20 minutes, to be honest. I went through it and I loved it.
Great. And it's also important not just to fill it out, but keep it close by, because as you go through the year, you can tweak and evolve. What is, we labeled the workbook Leading with Clarity. And the reason we came up with that name was during these uncertain times when half your teams are at home, half of them are, multiple states away from you. Clarity around where we're going, I think, is so critical, especially during these uncertain times. What does leading with clarity mean to you, Victor?
So, Steve, you're echoing another mentor of mine who I'm sure you either know or have heard of, John C. Maxwell. And he talks about being candid, being clear, and also being loving. So being candid and clear, anybody could be candid. You can be clear. You have to have clarity. but there's got to be a way to approach it, and there's got to be a way to say it to your team. And I've noticed that the leaders who can be candid and caring at the same time, their tone, the way they see it. And if I know you care about me as a leader, Steve, I'm going to be completely open to whatever you have to say. You can say your dog's, you could kill my dog, but if you say it with love, I trust you, I know who you are, I'm going to accept that because I know you care. So being clear, having those uncomfortable conversations, but saying in a way that you show that you care is everything. And that's something that I've done even with my kids. To clean their room or to eat the vegetables. I try to say it in a way where I'm not raising my tone of voice. I'm saying it with love, and I'm being candid, but I'm also being caring as well. So I think being clear and caring at the same time for me is everything when it comes to leadership.
And one of the key points I'm taking out of your conversation, our conversation, Victor, in your words, is intentionality. And that is the beauty of writing things down, because it is your intent, it is your purpose, it is your point to go do A, B, C, or D.
Yeah.
And that intentionality. So whether you grab this workbook, whether you grab someone else, that's not the point. Here is, if you want to be successful, you have to write it down. You have to have a clear vision. You have to share it. And for our teammates that have men and women working for them, what a great way to create a community by doing the workbook together with your team and really getting that buy-in to what you're trying to do. So, Victor, I'll give you one more word that you want to leave our audience with. Anything else you want to share before we break today?
You know what, Steve? Thank you so much for having me. As I mentioned, you are one of the leaders that I look up to, and you may not know it from a distance, but I follow all of your material. I read it all. I internalize it. I do share it. I would say that, going into the new year, just, remember that no matter what you're going through or what you've gone through, somebody out there has gone through worse. And being grateful for where you are today, even if you're not where you want to be, being grateful, being excellent in that position, and striving towards what you want to do is everything. So perspective about where you are and where you want to be, I think from my standpoint, is where we want to go. So much love, Steve. Have an amazing 2022, and I'm always here if you need anything here in Dirty Jersey.
Great. Well, before you take off, Victor, thank you for being here. Thank everyone for joining us for LinkedIn Live with Steve White and my road dog, Victor, who joined me today. Every month. So our next LinkedIn Live will be the first week in February. Please put it on your calendar. Please look for the date and the exact date and time. But one of my favorite quotes, the two most important days in your life is the day you're born. The second is when you know why. And my why is about helping create a table of prosperity for others. And LinkedIn Live today is all about sharing with you so you can be the best you can be, so you can join us at this table of prosperity. Thanks, everybody. Here's to a great start to a very important year, 2022. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us on LinkedIn Live with Steve White.